Now let's look at using completing the square to solve quadratics. So let's look at the problem. X squared plus 8x plus 3 is equal to 0. So first let's look at the steps here. The first step is that you want to isolate x squared plus bx. So the first thing you want to do is get the 3 on the other side, so subtract 3. So you get x squared plus 8x. And I'm going to leave a gap here because we're going to add something there, and that's equal to minus 3. And the next thing is if there was a coefficient from the x squared, you want to factor that out. In this case, there's not. So then what you want to do is you want to complete the square. And what I mean by completing the square is take b, half it, and square it. So in this case, we're going to take b as 8, half it, that's 4, square it, that's 16. So we're going to add 16 to this side. So that's 8, and then half it is 4, and then 4 squared is 16. Now, the key is if we add 16 to one side, then we have to add it to the other side. So we're going to add it, and that's how we're going to complete the square. So here we have to add 16 to this side as well. And then we get x squared plus 8x plus 16 is equal to 13. The third step is you're going to factor. This is always going to factor. This is x plus and x plus. And what two numbers multiply to 16 and add 8 is going to be 4 and 4. So this is just going to be x plus 4 squared is equal to 13. Then after that, you're going to simply solve for x. Now if you notice that the first thing we're going to do is we have the square term isolated, so we're going to take the square root of both sides. And whenever we take the square root of both sides, we're going to take and add the plus and minus. Now we're going to solve for x. We're going to simply subtract 4 from both sides. So you get minus 4 plus or minus square root of 13. We're going to try to simplify square root of 13. We can't. And that's how you do it. Now that's simpler than many problems, but that's the basic structure of how to solve a problem, solve a quadratic by completing the square. Let's look at a slightly more difficult problem. Let's look, solve 2x squared plus 12x minus 5 is equal to 0. Now the trick here is that you can always use quadratic formula or try to factor it. This is just an alternative way of solving it. So let's think of this. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to isolate x squared plus bx. And here there's two steps. The first, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. You get 2x squared plus 12x is equal to 5. Now I'm going to take a 2 out. Now you could divide everything by 2, but I'm just going to factor a 2 out here, and I get x squared plus 6x. I'm going to leave a space. And then so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to complete the square. So let's see. b is 6. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to add 9 here. Now here's the trick. Even though I'm adding 9 here, I'm not really adding 9. I'm adding 9 times 2. So this is really 18, which means I have to add 18 to this side. So let me rewrite the problem. X squared plus 6x plus 9 is equal to, that's going to be 23. Now I need to factor this. Let's see real quick. That's x squared plus 6x plus 9. That's a plus and a plus. Find two numbers that multiply to 9 and add to 6. That's going to be a 3 and a 3. So that's 2x plus 3 squared is 23. Now I'm simply going to solve for x. I'm going to divide by 2. I get x plus 3 squared is equal to 23 over 2. Do that again, 23 over 2. Take the square root of both sides, and I get x plus 3 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 23. Let's try that one more time. Square root of 23 over 2, and I'm going to subtract 3. Now, I still have to simplify this, and that's what I'll do next, but that's the general idea of the problem. First, you isolate the x squared plus bx. That's what I did here. Then I added 9 to complete the square, but I was really adding 9 times 2. I was really adding 18 to both sides. Then I factor this and solve it. Now let's work on simplifying this problem. Right, let's just do it right here so you can see this. That's x plus x is equal to minus 3 plus or minus square root of 23 over 2. That's square root of 23 over square root of 2. But I don't like having a square root on the bottom, so I'm going to multiply this by square root of 2 over square root of 2. And I get minus 3 plus or minus, that's going to be 46 over 2. Now I have to think for a second, can I simplify square root of 46? 2 goes into it, that doesn't help me. 4 doesn't go into it. 9 doesn't go into it, so that's my final answer right there. Let's do one more quick problem. Let's solve 3x squared minus 18x plus 5 is equal to 0. First thing you do is you isolate the x squared, so I'm going to subtract 5. And I'm going to factor a 3 out. Let's see what I'm going to add. Half of minus 6 is minus 3, so it's minus 6 times 1/2 is minus 3. And then you square that, minus 3 squared is a positive 9. So I'm going to add 9 here. But I'm not really adding 9, I'm really adding 9 times 3, so I'm really adding 27, so I have to add 27 to this side. So then I get 3x squared minus 6x plus 9 is equal to 22. Factor this, and I get 3x minus 3 squared is equal to 22. Divide by 3. X minus 3 squared is equal to 22 over 3. Take the square root of both sides, and I get x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 22 thirds. Now, whether you need to simplify this, you can simplify it now or later. In this example, I'll simplify it now. That's plus or minus square root 22 thirds. That's the square root of 22 over the square root of 3. I don't like a square root on the bottom, so I multiply that by square root of 3 and square root of 3. And I get square root of 66, I believe, over square root of 9, or 3. So let's see if I can simplify square root of 66. I need to find a perfect square that goes into 66. Maybe 9 does? No. 4 does? No. So I can't simplify that, so I'm just going to add 3 to both sides. So my final answer is x is equal to 3 plus or minus. You can never forget your plus or minus when you take the square root of both sides over 3. And that's your final answer. And that's how you solve quadratics by completing the square. There are some more difficult problems, and then that's in the follow-up video called More Solving Quadratics by Completing the Square.